So, Rosie Nogel, thank you for being here to present. Rosie's the principal sanitary engineer with the Buffalo Sewer Authority, and she is also board certified by the Academy in environmental engineering, particularly with a specialty in water supply and wastewater. And Rosie's going to be talking with us today about getting creative with engineering management. Rosie, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Here we go. So what I'm going to speak about is why change is needed in engineering management, questions to ask to challenge the way we have always done things, and potential solutions. And in my role at Buffalo Sewer, I'm managing our engineering office, overseeing 850 miles of collection system pipe. So I'm a principal sanitary engineer. I work at the second largest wastewater facility in New York State. And currently we have a very small engineering staff. And we're having trouble finding new ones. And one of the things that has come up with trying to find new staff has been this issue of generations, that the baby boomer generation is very much on the verge of and in the process of retiring, which leaves Gen X and millennials to take their place. But there were never enough Gen X and millennial members out there to take the place of the boomer generation. And COVID has really exacerbated this issue. Retirements have happened much faster than anyone really anticipated. So we really need to diversify who gets hired, especially in municipal work. Ethnic and racial minorities and foreign-born individuals have traditionally not been well represented, and women in general have not, especially in the engineering fields. And a lot of our job titles are built around this old model of having everyone in a drafting room, doing drafting, surveying, calculations, designs, reports, doing everything by people that have a BS in engineering in just this one field. There's not enough engineers out there to do it these days. When engineers do try to do everything, it costs too much. And we end up with a lot of things that are put into spreadsheets that are not necessarily well presented in spreadsheets. So what I've learned is that we need to really be looking at building multidisciplinary teams with GIS specialists, clerks, grant management specialists, planners, and especially grant management specialists come in with the amount of infrastructure dollars that are out there these days. Now, when I start talking about this with other engineers, the first thing I hear is that we're lowering the bar, that I'm talking about replacing engineers with folks that aren't as well educated. But there's a lot of things out there that engineers are just not the greatest at. And we need to stop thinking like little kids playing soccer. If you've ever seen little kids play soccer, little kids all run to the same ball. They all want to play at the same time, and whatever is important, all the little kids are going to run to. You go to a professional soccer game, especially a professional women's soccer game, everyone stays in their place and lets the ball be passed them and plays in the position that they're most skilled at. And that's something that we need to do in engineering, is find where we are most skilled and stay there. And then we also need to decide, what skills do we need? What work do we actually need to get done? If we can identify what engineers are best at, what else needs to get done, and who can we match to those skills? How can we get the work done with people from a more diverse set of backgrounds? And who do we have on our team already? What skills, knowledge, abilities? What do they have that they do in their off time? What hobbies do they have? What other background information do we have about people that are at our different organizations and employers that they could bring to these tasks? And once we've identified what skills we already have, we can really look at what skills are missing. What puzzle pieces do we need to add to make the whole puzzle work? If we're not going to have enough engineers to fill in all the pieces, what skills do we need to target to figure out how to make this thing work in the future? And this can be folks that we bring in as contract labor. Maybe it's adding new job titles to the employment circuit, employment area. And sometimes it's a matter of training people that have different backgrounds to do the work that needs to be done. And then we need to look at de-stressing the people that are already working. And many of us are working 2 or 3 people's jobs at this point. So we need to take the pressure off, but ensure consistency, and at the same time, keep moving. So we need to figure out how to pass the ball. At the Sewer Authority, one of the things we've done is we've really gone from, a few years ago, we had 5 engineers and 1 LA. Those folks moved on and we can't replace them because they're just in so high demand and we can't pay them enough. So we've really moved towards engineers and GIS folks. And on the one hand, I'd love to have more engineers, but on the other hand, the GIS and the web page are being so much better maintained. Stormwater permits and other tasks are moving and being accelerated and are much better well done than they have been in the past. And my workload, as much as I don't have the engineers that I want, I am still being able to decrease my workload and get more and more towards a manageable level by working with these folks from different backgrounds and focusing in on the skills rather than the titles. And so, well, like I said, engineers cost too much, are in too high demand, doing things that we're not necessarily good at. And so the solution that I found is to identify the workload, look at other titles that I can pay somebody a little less to do, contract out to specialists and ensure transition. And that, I think we're at the Q&A.
Wonderful, Rosie. Thank you so much. Excellent presentation. Really appreciate it. Great. Feels a little weird though, doesn't it? Right? To see that little slider go. I love that analogy. I can so picture the little kids running to the ball with soccer. What a great visual. What a great visual. And that's, it's really neat that you talked about engineering management or management in general being that skill of how to pass the ball. So kind of a little bit of a probing question to kind of push into that model some, right? So you're advocating for kind of staying in our lane and kind of working in that space and looking to pass work. How do we keep ourselves refreshed so that our lane doesn't disappear out from under us and we find ourselves not employed? Because, for example, maybe that task can be done by AI, or maybe that task can be outsourced someplace else. So as we stay in our lane, how would you suggest we stay fresh while staying in our lane?
I think it's a matter of finding the lane first that cannot be replaced by AI. There's still things that you need a hands-on perspective, and I'm staying local government in part because of that. But also it's a matter of constantly being in conversation with others and understanding that lane is constantly evolving, but also that looking at what skills have we learned in engineering school that can be applied to an ever-evolving workforce and an ever-evolving economy, but also coming back always to the engineering equations and that piece that we all learned, design, and at the end of the day, everything needs to get stamped by somebody.
Right. We still gotta break out our calculator and do some real engineering. No, I appreciate that. And I really like that hook where you're saying, especially in that local government setting. So So perhaps can you speak to some of maybe either your experience or things you've heard about, kind of what's the appetite for that kind of inclusive approach by local politicians, by local governments? So historically underrepresented groups, or particularly foreign-born or foreign nationals. Do we find municipal governments being willing and open in that space, or is there anything we can do to help make that space more welcoming or to make things more inclusive? What are your thoughts there?
I think it really depends on the local government. Where I am in the city of Buffalo, New York, as long as you're a resident of the city, we are quite open to hiring foreign nationals as long as you pay rent within the city of Buffalo. I've worked for other municipalities that do not want to deal with the laws regarding hiring foreign nationals and signing off on paperwork for that purpose. So I think it is something that is a challenge, but at the same time, when I've had I can't hire an engineer. I've had a consulting firm trying to hire an engineer that pays significantly more than municipal work for the past year, and they haven't been able to find me somebody that can work on my projects because there's just such a labor crunch right now.
Sure.
So I think that there's definitely more and more openness to hiring anyone that can do the work. And the other piece is that speaking a language other than English fluently is an asset. It's not a hindrance. It is an asset that especially in a multilingual communities like Buffalo, we're looking for people that can speak multiple languages and can communicate with members of the public.
Well, I appreciate that, because the question I was going to kind of lead into would be, so if we were to go back to, the in-school Rosie and give her the advice, or we were going to go talk to, Rosie's professors of what they should be teaching her, right? So give us some insight, cultural relevance, but local, but multilingual. So besides I'm good at design, I can use my calculator. We know those engineering skills, right? And so what are some other skills? Could you describe them or put them in words? What other things do the engineers need to be trained in or should be picking up as they're going through their work to be good at this management space?
Listening. They need to be good at listening and actually asking questions that solicit actual answers rather than simply assuming that we understand one another. Because often enough, what I am hearing is not what you are trying to say to me. Sure. And the other piece is that the public expects from professionals, the public expects from government, but the public also expects from professionals greater transparency and openness than many of us really went to school assuming and feeling comfortable with. We learned our expertise, and we expect to be given deferment for that, that others will defer to that, and that's no longer the world that we live in, if it ever was. So being willing to be humble and being willing to understand the other person's perspective is something that really needs to be better communicated through engineering school and emphasized as being a skill.
Excellent. Well, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. I know the Q&A really puts it on the spot, right? You're like, I thought the presentation was difficult, and then we got some Q&A after. Thank you so much, Rosalie. We really, round of applause again. This was fantastic. I really appreciate you taking a crack at this Pachachka presentation. Thank you so much for joining us.